Hey Sunrise, it's Andrew here with your small group questions for this week as we dive into our new series, The Christian Home. And to kick this off, we're going to be in Ephesians 5, which is where we'll spend the bulk of our time over the next coming week is 5 and 6. And we'll also be looking at 1 Corinthians. But so we begin by setting this foundation, this big picture idea of how the Christian home exists, what does it look like, and again, the many different facets that make up a Christian home is the reality of God's people. So it begins with all of us. Every single one of us have a home and exist in some form of a home. And how we live out the faith well in that environment is essential. And so we begin in chapter 5 in verse 15 with that call to look carefully how then you walk. So in 15 to 19, or 15 to 21, we're going to be really laying into the idea of who we are as believers first and foremost. How do we live out the faith well together? What does the Christian life look like? So as you look at this text, what are some things that stand out to you about what the Christian life looks like and how that applies to our lives in the home? So as you work through the text, what are some things that stand out? What are some things you can quickly apply? And how does this affect how we live together? So what does a wise life look like? What would you say a wise Christian life looks like? Why is it important that we make the best use of the time? Again, looking at this text, what does it mean to make the best use of our time? And how the text shows us that. Ultimately, as we think about it, what then do we see? He says the will of God, as we think about those things of not being drunk with wine, but being filled with the Spirit. So I want you to spend some time working through this text, begin to think through some of the important parts of how this teaches us about God, how does it teach us about Christ, how does it teach us about one another, and ultimately how it leads us to that final text, submitting to one another out of reverence for Christ, and how that then sets up everything that we talk about as we talk about husbands, we talk about wives, we talk about children, we talk about singles, widows, divorcee, like how it all fits together. So I hope that you'll spend some good amount of time beginning this text, begin to unpack some of these nuances as we spend time together in God's Word in our small groups. Hope to see you here on Sunday as we begin this text with Ephesians 5, 15 to 21. And then again for the coming weeks as we unpack the rest of what it means to live well as a believer in our homes. Can't wait to see you guys.